so I'm not an expert on this, but the idea is that the animal agriculture industry is a very powerful one. Obviously, it's big business, and they have a lot of people doing close to politics, and so they push for bills that are in their that are for themselves and against others. And so ag-gag bills are the point of them are trying to make it harder for anyone to expose their wrongdoing. So a lot of vegans would go in or vegan organizations would send people in, and they'd get video, and people would get it out to the public, and people would see how shockingly horrible animals were being treated. And even people who don't think of animal rights, they get horrified by this, and it helps push the vegan animal rights messages forward. But animal agriculture doesn't want this to happen, so they work on bills to prevent that. So they try to get them passed so that it makes it harder for people to expose them. For example, they try to get laws passed making it illegal to take photos or videos of their operations, or they make it harder for whistleblowers to do their job, and bills of that nature. And so there are, there are some that are passed in various states and various places, and so there's still a fight over that. But that's what's happening there. It's like they are trying to, get bills for their own big business and try to prevent us from pushing animal rights forward, and we're trying to fight in the courts to prevent that, and that's a fight that's still ongoing right now.
Got it. Thank you for that. Some people want to know, is there really such a thing as an ethical egg? And how about humanely raised beef or chicken or pork? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So if you notice how in my presentation, I didn't talk much about treatment, and there's a reason for that. I mean, I do in the book, because everybody should know the full treatment of it, and I think that's one of the things that people get them initially interested in the area is they viscerally see something and they say, "Wow, this is wrong," and that's kind of what gets their first interest. But when you go into it and think about it further, I'm hoping that everybody comes to the conclusion that this isn't just about amount of badness of treatment. It's the fact that we're seeing them as commodities in the first place. That's the original sin, and that's where all of the other bad practices come from. Because if you don't see them as commodities, you're not looking to exploit them. If you see them as commodities, you are going to you're going to start adding more and more bad things as you convince yourself that, oh, it's okay, and you need to make money and it's okay. So that's really for me, that's what it comes down to. So there's no ethical animal product other than in the way you would maybe say if you found a dead animal on the side of the road that nobody killed on purpose or whatever, or a dead human for that matter, and you just said, oh, okay, I might as well eat the meat, right? I mean, of course there's other issues there in terms of maybe they have relatives and so on, but let's just take the hypothetical case. They don't. It's just some separate person. So I mean, like you're not doing harm. So if you want to say, oh, that's ethical, fine, go for it, you know. But that's not what we're really talking about. So I mean, we're just splitting hairs at that point. But in terms of what people usually mean in terms of humane, really, the humane labels are all false. You're being lied to, basically. There's no like, there's no body that says, you know, that makes you think that it's ethical to think that you think it is. Like, they want you to think that it's some farm that is old McDonald's farm, and every animal's out roaming free and having a wonderful time, and then they just have one bad day they don't see coming, and that's it. And that's a lie. It's, I mean, as you find out what the practices are, it just gets more and more dystopian, and it's just horrible. But even if hypothetically that was the case, that was, you know, that it was some hypothetical perfectly treated animal, even killing them in that one bad day is taking something away from them. That's taking away their entire future life, because when you look into what age the animals are killed, they're all babies or adolescents. We basically just want to get them as fast as possible to market weight, kill them, and start the process over again. So if you look at the age that animals are killed versus their natural lifespans, you'll see that is way off. They're killed when they're babies or adolescents. And then also, even more than that, there's also, a lot of times we don't think about the genetical like misbreeding of them. Like, these animals, they are intentionally misbred in a way to give us more of what we want as humans, even if it comes at a great physical harm for themselves. So for example, there's two different breeds of chickens. One is specifically bred for laying eggs, and one is specifically bred for growing as fast as possible and getting as much breast meat as possible. So both of them have been completely misbred. On the one hand, you have these animals that are basically grow in 5 to 6 weeks, where they can't even stand up anymore because they're grown so big and large. Or chicken eggs, for example, if you look at the ancestors of chickens, which is called a jungle fowl, they only lay like 12 eggs a year. So we've misbred them to lay eggs almost every day at the cost of their own health. And if you look at the lifespan of a chicken versus a jungle fowl, the jungle fowl is like 30 years, and the chicken is like 8. And there's a reason for that. You know, we're getting what we want at their expense. So that's the answer, I think.
Got it. Thank you very much for that. And let's see. Can you explain to us what eating animal products has to do with climate change, and why people say our diet affects climate?
Sure. So there are a number of ways that animal agriculture contributes to climate change. So first of all, there's all the fossil fuels used for the entire life cycle of getting the products to people's plates. So that's one area, and it's a big one. Another big area is that, and it's especially outsized for cows, is methane gas. So cows in particular, through burping, will they send out methane gas, and it's it's much more potent than CO2. And then another way is deforestation. So there's a lot of deforestation that goes on because we think of a lot of times we think, oh, it's all because of paper. We're cutting down trees for paper. That's not the case. Most of the reason for deforestation is for the purposes of getting more land to either grow crops to feed animals or more land for grazing animals. And as animal products, as the desire and as people order more of them, more and more land has to be transitioned from wild forests to grow crops or graze animals. And so all of these trees, which naturally store CO2, we're losing all of that storage capacity and emitting all of that CO2 to the atmosphere. So while there's still a debate over the exact percentages, the lowest consensus numbers put animal agriculture bigger than transportation combined. So it's one of the biggest contributors to climate change. And a lot of us think that those numbers are actually much smaller than they actually are. And so, according to a number of studies, it's actually a much higher number where putting animal agriculture as the actual majority contributor to climate change. But in any case, according to pretty much all studies, we can't hit our CO2 reduction goals without a global change in diet.
Got it. Can you tell me what's wrong with eating fish? Haven't humans always eaten fish? Is there an issue there?
Yeah. So again, in a sense, we come back to the naturalistic fallacy. Like the way you phrased it was, haven't we always done that, right? And so it's kind of like saying it's natural. And there's a lot of things that we've done throughout history, and we now know more recently was terribly wrong. And again, the classic human slavery was around forever. Women couldn't vote. I mean, like until 100 years ago. We're still going through things that we're improving on. And so for that same reason, just because people see it as natural, doesn't mean that it is. It doesn't mean that that's the thing we should be doing. It doesn't mean that it's not wrong. And for fish, it's basically the same argument as for birds and mammals, and the reason is they're sentient. Now, a lot of us, may recognize mammals as being higher, more sentient, and see fishes as less. But that's something that I think science keeps adding to and finding out that we're undervaluing them. But regardless, it's a known fact that they are sentient, and that's enough. If you remember my presentation, that's enough. Sentience is the reason that we should want to do something to someone else. Like as much as we think we're higher than them, that still doesn't mean that we're allowed to take from someone else who we consider below us. And that's really what it amounts to. We're being bullies, in a sense.